like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, this video is going to be about the 10 tails that hasn't necessarily been getting a lot of conversation about it, but needless to say, the 10 tails is going to be a huge dilemma for the Hidden Leaf Village and possibly the whole world in the future. Now, just to give a bit of a backstory, the 10 tails actually did come from Jigen. Now, where did Jigen get the 10 tails from? We have absolutely no idea. The 10 tails made its debut when Sasuke went into another dimension, essentially researching some stuff about Jigen, and then stumbled upon the full-blown 10 tails. Now, speaking of full-blown 10 tails, this 10 tails isn't necessarily a full-grown 10 tails. It was described as an adolescent 10 tails. I like to declare it like a baby 10 tails, but needless to say, this 10 tails is still extremely strong and also does the basic functions of a 10 tails. If you guys don't necessarily know, the 10 tails is essentially the seedling for a god tree that could potentially be planted on any planet. So hypothetically, if that 10 tails is planted on Earth, everybody on Earth obviously will die. Now, before I dive even further on this 10 tails, I definitely do want to point out something completely underrated that a lot of people don't even necessarily talk about. Sasuke could have changed the entire complexion of the series if he had literally sealed the 10 tails inside of himself when he went to that other dimension, seeing the 10 tails at first. Now, obviously, Sasuke was completely justified in not actually sealing the 10 tails inside of him, mainly because there's a lot of information that Sasuke just completely did not know at that particular time. But looking back at it now, 2024 side, Sasuke could have literally, as I said, changed the entire complexion of the series if he had actually sealed the 10 tails inside of him. They would have probably actually beat Jigen back in the day, and of course Ishiki Otsutsuki would have popped out. That right there would have definitely been a dilemma. Hypothetically, if Jigen went there and realized the 10 tails was completely gone, he probably wouldn't necessarily be looking for Kawaki. His first priority would probably be to find out who took the 10 tails, because that right there would be the entire play, and obviously he wants to create a god tree. So of course, without the 10 tails, it would have been completely clipped. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, Baryon Mode Naruto with the 10 tails sealed inside of Sasuke versus Ishiki Otsutsuki, I might have to go with Naruto and Sasuke right then and there, bro. It would have literally changed the entire complexion of the series. I just wanted to point that out real quick. Now, the 10 tails is a problem. Now, why is it a problem? I explained it a little bit earlier, essentially detailing exactly the 10 tails is going to be the ceiling to the god tree. But moreover than that, every time we see an Otsutsuki member come to this dimension, it's always some sort of Dora Explorer treasure hunt where they try to gather up all the other tailed beasts. But of course, if other Otsutsuki members out there, potentially the two missing Otsutsuki members that we did see when Sasuke entered that same dimension with the 10 tails, if they realize that, hey, there's just a rogue 10 tails out there in some sort of dimension, they don't necessarily have to go through that treasure hunt of actually gathering up 9 different tailed beasts to actually make them into one. They could literally sneakily just plant the 10 tails on Earth. So of course, at this particular time, after we do get rid of the threat of Code, obviously the next big threat is going to be the 10 tails, and how Naruto and Sasuke and everybody else in the Hidden Leaf Village, or everybody else on planet Earth in this dimension, should actually deal with the 10 tails. Now, first things first, they'd have to actually find the 10 tails. I think this right here is going to be extremely underrated in the overall problem. The only people that we do know that has knowledge of where the 10 tails is Code. Possibly Ida also has knowledge of where the 10 tails is. We'd have to somehow get that information from Code. Maybe have Boruto surrender to Code and have Boruto go back to the dimension with the 10 tails, and then Boruto completely changes on Code and then runs back and tells everybody where the 10 tails is. There's just a whole bunch of possibilities of us getting the knowledge of where the 10 tails is. But of course, once we find out where the 10 tails is, what would Naruto do to the 10 tails? Now, a very big theory that a lot of people have is that Naruto can potentially create brand new tailed beasts. This right here was actually explained back in Naruto Shippuden. The Sage of Six Paths, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, originally split up the original 10 tails into 9 tailed beasts, obviously the ones that we did see in Naruto. He did that with the Yin and Yang release, Creation of All Things. Now, of course, Naruto before had Creation of All Things. At this very moment, we do not know if Naruto still has the Creation of All Things jutsu. This right is going to be something that we can possibly look forward to in the future of the Boruto manga, when Naruto eventually fights without the appearance of Karma. Is Naruto still going to have Six Paths Sage mode? Is Naruto going to show us that he has Yin and Yang release? Things like that is going to be very critical to pay attention to in the next Naruto fight. Now again, we don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but most likely we're probably going to get to see Naruto fight again. Now, not only that, hypothetically, if Naruto does still have the Creation of All Things jutsu, one thing that we have to remember is that Hagoromo was extremely weakened after splitting up the tailed beast, and the natural question is going to be, can Naruto survive trying to split up a full tailed beast. Now, of course, this right here is going to be a lot easier than what Hagoromo had to do, mainly because Naruto's assignment would be to actually split up a baby 10 tails. At this particular point right now, we've seen 3 separate 10-tailed beasts. The first tailed beast that we did see that was fighting alongside Kage versus Hagoromo Hamura was the biggest tailed beast. That right there was the strongest tailed beast. The second one was the one that was actually fighting alongside Madara and Obito, and the smallest one is the one that we have now in Boruto. Now, Hagoromo actually tried to split up the biggest 10-tailed beast. That right there is going to be considerably a lot more difficult to split up than this baby 10 tails that we do have right now. So in theory, if Naruto still has the creation of all things jutsu, it wouldn't be that far off for Naruto to actually create brand new tailed beasts and potentially even create a brand new Kurama. That right there is definitely possible, but we do have to see exactly what Naruto can actually do in regards to his abilities, yin and yang release, and 6-pass Sage mode. Now, hypothetically, if Naruto does not have the creation of all things jutsu, the other way to potentially deal with that 10 tails would be to actually seal the 10 tails inside of either Naruto or Sasuke. I think that this right here would be probably one of the most logical things. I think Naruto and Sasuke would kind of be against sealing the 10 tails and possibly a child. They don't necessarily know exactly how to handle and how to maintain a tailed beast chakra inside of them. And of course, Sasuke himself wouldn't necessarily completely understand a tailed beast being sealed inside of him. But one of the things that was made very clear is that if a body or a vessel was way too weak for the 10 tails, the 10 tails could literally tear that body apart, similar to how Obito was literally being teared limb from limb after the 10 tails was sealed inside of him. But when Madara had the 10 tails sealed inside of him, it seemed like he was completely fine. So Naruto and Sasuke, they're strong enough to have the tail beast be still inside of them and not necessarily have any sort of crazy adverse effects from it. So of course, to me, Naruto and Sasuke would be prime candidates to become brand new Jinchurikis of this tailed beast. Another possibility that people have actually been bringing up to me is that they could possibly split up the 10 tails into 2 separate 10 tails and seal each of the halves into Naruto and Sasuke. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I think this right here is definitely possible, and I actually think this right here is a lot more likely than the other way of actually sealing the 10 tails in either Naruto or Sasuke. One of the themes that's very popular with the Boruto writers and even the Naruto writers is that they try to keep Naruto and Sasuke as equal as possible. This right here is very different from Dragon Ball, which is why I love Naruto for this, because Goku is always stronger than Vegeta, which I completely dislike. Right now it's kind of questionable, which is a good thing in Dragon Ball. That's completely besides the point. But again, story-wise, splitting the 10 tails up and sealing it in Naruto and Sasuke would make a lot of sense, but specifically how they would do it, I have absolutely no idea. We understand that Naruto isn't Uzumaki, and outside of huge chakra reserves, the Uzumakis are known for a lot of sealing jutsus. There might be a sealing jutsu out there that could potentially seal half of a 10-tailed beast into Naruto, and then Naruto can seal the other half into Sasuke. And again, Sasuke himself probably knows some sealing jutsus as well. But for this video, I definitely did want to bring some attention to the 10 tails, because this right here is a problem that a lot of people have not necessarily been talking about. Hypothetically, if we do get past the problem of code, we are definitely going to have to deal with the 10 tails in some sort of way. But again, this right here is just my opinion, my ideas. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. How should Naruto and Sasuke actually deal with the 10 tails, given we're going to actually get past the code dilemma? But it's been your boy Barby, and we out.
It's a knife.